Hello YouTubers, this is Musicswhore here, and this is my review of Pink Floyd's Obscured by Clouds, released 1972, June to be exact, and it was a soundtrack for the film La Vallée, a Barbara Schroeder film, who also did the movie More, and probably one of his most famous movies is Kiss of Death and all that. But no, for Pink Floyd, coming off of Metal, they began work on Dark Side of the Moon, and about halfway through they were commissioned to do the soundtrack for the film More, because it was part of a two movie soundtrack thing I think they did back in the early 60s, like More and then Obscured by Clouds later. But no. Also, another thing about this record, this is probably, in my opinion, Pink Floyd's most underrated album they ever did. This album was awesome. And it started off with the song Obscured by Clouds. And also another thing about this record is this probably features a lot of great David Gilmour guitar work, blah blah blah, and even some Rick Wright and Nick Mason, and even Roger Waters was pretty good on this album. First song starts off with a very heavy, sort of electronic sounding opening, which, if I researched this correctly, they used an EMS VCS3, which I guess is a little keyboard thing. Like, I guess you could say it was also used for On the Run in Dark Side of the Moon. If you've seen Live at Pompeii, that's what they were using for it. And it features some really great David Gilmour guitar playing, some really great Nick Mason drumming, and this is going to be it's going to be a thing throughout the entire album, as Nick Mason on this album was pretty good. His drumming was solid. It never felt too much, too little. It always felt like it was just perfect enough at the time. The only criticism I have of the first song on the album, and it's probably the next song as well, is it's just too short. The song just feels too short. Like, just as it starts picking up, it just ends, and it's like, darn it. And the next song on the album is When You're In. Now, this really started out great with a good drum, guitar, keyboard, bass opening with the dun 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 dun, and it had a really solid beat. Like, it was sort of repeating throughout the entire song. It's an instrumental now. The first two songs off this album are instrumental, and had some great keyboard parts, solid David Gilmour guitar playing, some good bass on it. But again, like the first song, it's just too short. Then you go off into the next song, Burning Bridges. Starts off very mellow, uses Rick Wright and David Gilmour double vocaling, which is very good. I really like David Gilmour and Rick Wright together. They sort of complemented each other enough. This is the first song with vocals. And another thing about this also, sort of like Nick Mason, David Gilmour did this awesome on guitar. He'd put in a small solo in there, but it was not overbearing. Like, it didn't overbear the song. It was always very worked well with what they were doing, and it just was very mellow, and it worked very well. The next song is probably the most upbeat Pink Floyd song, lyric wise and music wise, you will ever hear. To my recollection, they never played this song live, which I don't know why. It's such a great song. The Gold Is in the... And it was great. It's had David Gilmour singing on it, which had the "Come on my friends, let's make for the hills. They say there's gold, but I'm looking for thrills." And it really worked well. The drumming on it with the dun 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 dun. It never felt bearing to the song. Like, it really enhanced it a lot, and the lyrics were good. And the solo, what can I say? This solo is probably, or actually is one of David Gilmour's best solos he ever did. And there's something, it seems, as he got into Pink Floyd, from Saucerful Secrets to Amagama to even more Adam Hart Mother metal, and then you get to hear this shows David Gilmour at probably his best at the time. Then you go in from this song to What's a the Deal. It's an acoustic song. It's very catchy to people who've heard it. Let me in from the cold wind. And it's very mellow. Like, it's Pink Floyd, mellow. David Gilmour on vocals worked very good. And there was a Rick Wright keyboard solo and a David Gilmour solo in the same song, which worked very, very, very well. The drumming was good. Like I said, it was not overbearing to the song. It was dun, 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 very soft and all that. And no, even the keyboard solo, the dun, 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 it was just, it's hard to explain. It was just actually a really, really good. To anyone, I suggest this song very much. I love it. Next song on the album, Mudmen, which had a keyboard opening, piano opening, and it gets heavier as the album progresses. There's a lot of soft drumming, soft guitar playing to start it, and then you get heavier, heavier, heavier. It builds. It's like a Pink Floyd album, and in a song, it builds very well. Great David Gilmour, again, guitar solo on it. Great sound. And another thing about David Gilmour is his solos. He can play fast, slow, but you always feel the passion in it. And even Roger Waters' bassing in this is actually very good. And yeah, then on to one of the few songs to actually make it into a live set, or they actually played live, Childhood's End. It starts off with sort of that keyboard effect thing starting off the song. It builds and builds and builds. Then you get some drumming in it, and then you get some great David Gilmour blues-like riff to start it. It sort of sounds acoustic or even electric, just down a bit. But the lyrics in the song I really liked. You shout out in your sleep, perhaps the price is just too steep. And then even the bass on this was very good. Like, you could hear the song, it's good drumming, great David Gilmour guitar solos, 2 of them in this song, which really made the song better, in my opinion, and then it just fades out. Then the next song you get is Free For, which is starts off very upbeat, acoustic, and then you get to the lyrics, which is Roger Waters' only solo vocal track on the entire album. Has very dark lyrics, talks a lot about death, talks about his cynicism towards the music industry and all that at this point. And it mentions his father, which is the first mention really of his father in any Pink Floyd work. But the sound, even the guitar solos, there's sort of 3 guitar solos in this song. And it just sounds they work, is the best thing I can say about it. Next song on the album is Stay, which to me is one of the best songs on this record. Has a great piano opening. Then you get into some guitar playing, and Rick Wright's vocals on this. I'm not sure if he doubles it with Roger Waters. It could be at one point he does. But it worked really, really, really well. And once again, the guitar solo is good. It's mellow in spots. It really works. Now, the last song on the album was a pretty good way to send it off. Absolutely Curtains, I think, was Pink Floyd sort of closing the curtain on old Pink Floyd, like the true Pink Floyd, the experimental, everything they were about. Not that Dark Side of the Moon wasn't experimental, but it was the end of the renegade Pink Floyd. Like, we're Pink Floyd, and we'll do whatever the hell we want to do. Like, after this, they became commercial, which in some people's eyes you could say was Pink Floyd selling out, but it was, this was the perfect way. Like, it sort of combined everything they've done into one song. Like, I guess you could say that about some of their songs, and this song is instrumental, so it's pretty good. It starts off great keyboard opening, then you get into like soft Nick Mason banging the cymbal, or the cymbal on his guitar, or not guitar, drums, blah blah blah. Yeah, but it worked really good, and it built up, and then you get this great drum guitar beat for a few bit, and then, which built into a climax, and then you get this tribal chant like thing going that ended the song. Now, for me, it would have been better if the band would have came back with some music to it after that and really just jammed something and gave it a true send off. But it was good for what it was. Like, this album, in my opinion, is in the top 5 or 4 Pink Floyd albums, in my opinion. This album was really good. Now, was it as good as the album that was to follow? That's the debate there, but no. If I was to rate this album, I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. Like, this album blew me away with how good it was. And as David Gilmour, this features also probably some of David Gilmour's best vocal work, some of his best guitar playing. Rick Wright, this is probably the last time he was really featured in Pink Floyd with a solo composition. But no, it worked really well. And yeah, so this is Musicswhore. That's my review of Obscured by Clouds. Peace.